Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. Well, this week we start our planting for spring, and some of the first things that we're going to start today is we're going to start our onions. Now we're starting our onions from seed. We don't raise them by sets. Typically, if you're planting sets, you'd be putting them in sometime after at least for the northern parts up here above the I guess what you call Mason-Dixon line. You got to kind of look at, the long day versus short day type situations with the onions. And so in order for us to get the onions through the vegetative state and get them to bulb up in June and July for harvest in late July, we actually have to start these guys in, sometime right around mid or to late January. I might be a little bit on the edge of maybe a little later than necessary, but we kind of had a cold snap the last week, and I kind of didn't want to do stuff in the greenhouse. For that, I kind of had things shut down, and so we didn't use as much energy. But our weather's gone back to more moderate now, and now it's time to get these guys in the ground. So what I'm doing today is I'm planting our long-term storage onions. They're Bridger and Patterson are the two varieties that we use. They're kind of a whiter yellow onion. I guess they're technically a yellow onion. And they're pretty good storage. We typically end up harvesting those guys in late July, get them cured up and put into storage by mid-August or so. And they actually last for us all the way until they're kind of getting to the point now where they're starting. You gotta kind of go through the bins and start and sort through out ones that don't look like they're kind of starting to get soft or they're getting problems like that. But they actually have a good 6 months of storage time on them, so they're actually performing pretty well. Then we also raise a red called Cabernet, and that one is a medium-sized red, and it's actually had pretty good storage. It was supposed to be not quite as long, and we got about 4 months out of those, and they're real tasty on hamburgers and things like that. And then we also put in a few tray of shallots, and those are for extra for cooking mostly. And we tend to not use a terrible lot of those guys, but it's nice to have those on hand too. So these are the trays, and what we're using is now some people say, "Wow, you're using plastic," but these are 6-packs we purchased over 5 years ago, and we're still using these guys today. So it's a matter of how you take care of them. We tend not to, rip them apart when we're transplanting, so we're careful in getting the things out. And then we set them aside, keep them out of the sun, and they've actually lasted a long time. So from a perspective of one and done, this isn't the case at all. And these guys are typically, the ones we bought were a little bit heavier plastic, so that gives us even a longer life on it. So we're going to do 5 of those guys today, 1 tray of shallots, and the rest 1 tray of reds, and then 3 trays of our Bridger and Patterson. So these are 72 in a tray, and what we're going to do is we're going to multi-seed these guys. So each cell here in these guys will probably have about 3 or 4 onions in them once they germinate. I'm trying out something different this year. In the past, we've used Pro Mix. And this is a potting mix that's made by a local company called Down to Earth, which is down in Eugene, Oregon. And I'm going to take their potting mix, which is got a base of, I think it's mostly core is the base. So I wanted to kind of try that out and see, how that works out. It's also got some vermicast in it, which is what I would do anyway, and a small amount of perlite. But I'm going to put some more perlite. You can kind of see, like these perlite chunks are not super fine, but they're kind of a medium grade, and I got some more of that. I think I'm going to boost this up maybe about 10%. And other than that, it's sifted, so there isn't any oversized material in it, which is nice. And I'm going to be using this for starting our onions and all the stuff we're going to do this week. So we're testing it out to see if this makes any sense. In the past, we used to buy like 4 cubic foot of compressed Pro Mix, but I think, with our smaller scale now, we're probably going to, kind of back off on that. And I'm saving my compost that I'm making in my bins. I'm saving that for use in the garden itself as a top dress. So I kind of want to stay, you know, away from using that for potting mix at this point, because I'm also not sure, you know, 100% that, you know, I've killed off all the weed seeds in the stuff. And so when you're starting seeds, you know, to have weeds pop up first is kind of annoying. So one of the things that, you know, folks ask is, say, well, how much do you put in? And actually anymore, I mean, I used to be really precise in measuring this stuff out. And basically what I want to do is just kind of eyeball it at this point. That looks like to me like it's about, probably about 10, see, you get the dust, about 10%. And I'm just going to kind of mix it in until I know it kind of looks right. And what you kind of want, is a really good draining medium. It's got some sand in it. And I think in general, what I'm looking for is just give it a little more loft when I put it in the 6-pack. So I know that I got a good air in there that will kind of keep things from going anaerobic. So filling the trays itself is really pretty easy. As you can kind of see when you look at this material, you kind of got enough of a, you know, you can see all the little white flakes, and that's good. So I'm just going to fill these guys up real fast, except when I do that. And it's a matter of, you know, how long does it take you to do this, say, versus making a soil blocks. And what I find is, I used to do soil blocks all the time. I still do some for some things, like when I'm trying to start a lot of flowers or something like that, because it's nice because I can put 300 of those mini blocks in a tray. But this is going to keep me from having to do any kind of transplant. And this is probably the equivalent in terms of the amount of mix that you would use if you were making 1.5-inch soil blocks. It's kind of the same idea. The one thing I found about making large volumes of soil blocks, even with a stand-up blocker, is the amount of mix time is pretty substantial. You got to kind of, you know, keep that thing, you know, the mixer going basically, or someone mixing it for you to keep putting in extra material as you're making the blocks. The stand-up blocker with it gives you 105 cells per tray, works pretty good, but it's still the same issue. And you can kind of see it only took a few minutes to fill this, and it didn't take very long. And I'm just going to make sure that it's packed in pretty good so it doesn't settle too much. And then these guys should be ready to plant. As you can kind of see, I kind of, with my fingers, I kind of made a little dibble in it. Now there's all different ways you can do it, but you know, when you're just trying to be fast, that's just basically all there is to it. So the seed that thing we're using here this is something you can get like on Johnny's or what, and it's basically just a little manual seeder, and it's got individual holes in the side for the size of the seed. So basically once you put the seed in the container here, it's just a matter of just, you know, you just tap it out. And what we're going for is to put 4 in each one of these little divots. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll put some of this, this is a finer grade of vermiculite. Let's see if I can get this. There's not much left in this box. I got to get some more in this pail here. And basically cover it and then moisten it down, and then we'll put the put it on heat mat, and we'll put the heat mat at about 70 roughly. I think the specs here are for about 70 degree germination. So that should work out just about right. And once they germinate, we're going to have them on 12 hours of daylight just to kind of get them up to size, and then we'll get them prepped for transplant. Our goal would that we'd be putting these guys in the tunnel probably about the first or second week of March. I kind of thinking 5 or 6 weeks total to get these guys germinated and and to a size that we could transplant. All right, so we got the seeds in. It just takes a little bit of time. There are obviously faster ways of doing stuff. We just chose this is the way to do it. And I'm just going to take a handful of this really fine stuff and make sure that I just kind of release enough into each individual depression that I got these guys covered about 1/4 inch or so. And, just kind of do that over the entire tray. And that's really the whole thing. You can use different sizes of vermiculite. This is kind of a fine to medium. Some people use a heavier, coarser grade. I find that the smaller the seed, the finer the vermiculite's a better deal. So this is what we got going. Planting the onions out. I got 5 trays to do here, and then get these guys kind of misted in a bit, and then get it on the heat mat. We'll put a humidity dome over it. You guys probably know what those are. Those are those clear plastic domes that just kind of make sure that the top doesn't dry out. It's going to be real important that during the germination phase that it doesn't get any extra moisture, but at the same time doesn't dry out, because we don't want the seed to interrupt its process of germinating. So that's it. So let's going to move on to the next ones and get them all done. All right, so we got all the onions seeded, and we've got them on heat mats here. We got one over here. That was our shallots, and actually I got a little amaryllis started over here, which is kind of cool. It was a little bulblet off of one of our amaryllis plants. We end up with about 4 to 5 in each cell, so I figure 3 to 4 germinate and get to size, and that gives us a nice size onion about that big around typically. And so we have easily here close to 1,000 onions, and we'll probably have several hundred shallots. And last year's shallots performed really well. The multiple seeding in a plug or a soil block seems to work out pretty good. And the guy over there, this one on the shallots is running currently at 68.5 is where the temperature is at. We've got a soil probe inside of these guys, so it's like a little electric thermocouple type thing to sense the soil temp, and that keeps it from getting too hot, too cold, so it stays right in that zone of somewhere between 68 and 71, right in there, most of the time close to 70. Should be about, experience was last time, the onions took about closer to 10 days to germinate. They're a little slower than maybe some of the other veg, but once they begin to germinate in a large mass, we'll turn off the heat mat, because I also wanted to make sure that I get the humidity domes off the guys once they begin to germinate, and we're going to need airflow in here to kind of keep it, basically what we're trying to do is keep the humidity from getting too high, which can cause all kinds of problems with rots and things like that, to stay away from that. So that's the story. Onions, again, for this year, we're staying with the same varieties because they worked really well for us. We got good storage. Again, it was Patterson and Bridger for the yellows, Cabernet for the red, and we had Matador and Ambition for our shallots, and those varieties seem to perform really well for us. So Thanks for watching, guys. Next up is we have flowers and we have lettuce and other greens to get started. So our season is really starting to kick off. So stay tuned, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.